To call this meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for Clayton, Ohio, Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, to order. Roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Here.
Ms. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Madewell? Here. Ms. Caldwell?
Here.
I'll go through and explain the meeting procedures briefly. What we'll do is we'll administer the oath to staff and members of the public who wish to speak on the agenda item. We'll call the agenda items and ask for staff to present the case. Then we'll go through and ask the applicant if they'd like to add anything to the presentation that we've had. Have a discussion here on the board. Any questions to staff or the applicant? And then we'll have a motion to open the floor to public comments, either for or against. We'll ask for any of those, listen to them, and then ask if the applicant would like to respond to any of the comments received. Any other further discussion among the board members will be discussed, and then we'll ask the board members if any'd like to provide the findings of fact for the case. Otherwise, Chair will do it. And what we do is on a variance application, we've got multiple questions that we need to look at and find. And then we'll ask for a motion and a second to approve conditions or disapprove the applicant's request. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're going to be going through tonight procedurally. First thing I'll do then is administer the oath to members of the public who may wish to speak in front of us tonight. So if you will do so, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give to this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Tonight we've got a little organizational meeting since this is the first meeting of the year. First thing we're going to do is go through the minutes and approve the minutes of December 19th, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I hear from the board any additions, corrections, amendments, or clarifications that they wish to make to the meeting or the minutes of the December 19th meeting as published and distributed?
No comments.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from December 19th meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. I don't think we need a roll call there, Barbara. We're all in agreement. First organizational meeting item tonight will be acknowledgement and acceptance of the rules of procedures. We had those distributed to us last year. I don't think anything's changed. Has everybody had a chance to review them just to refresh our memory? And if so, are there any comments on that? I think they're accepted, but we'll go through a roll call. Right. I move we go through and accept the rules of procedures for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Clayton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Second item is the approval of the 2024 Board of Zoning Appeals schedule for the year of 2024. I understand it's the first Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock here in the chambers. Okay. Do I hear any comments? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion we accept.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The third item is the appointment of the 2024 BZA Chair. Do I hear a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Bob McGinnis as the Board of Zoning Appeals Chair for 2024.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
And Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
thank you. And I'll do my best to keep everybody on track and smiling at times. Next item up will be the appointment of the 2024 BZA Vice Chair, and I'd like to nominate Ms. Hunter, Ms. Jessica Hunter, for that position.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
thank you. And she'll keep us smiling too when I'm not here. The last item in our organizational items will be the appointment of Barbara Same, Clerk of Council for City of Clayton, as Board Secretary. And I would like to move that she be appointed.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
thank you very much. Okay, I think we've done our business then, or administrative business. No old business, so we go to new business. New business is a variance case, VAR 2401, a request for a variance to section 1121.02.I.4 of the Clayton zoning code, specifically requesting to be permitted to place the finished side of a fence in toward the property's yard at the property located at 8188 Inwood Drive. And the request was made by Mr. Mario Sarno, property owner. Thank you. Staff?
Thank you, Chairperson McGinnis. Application variance 24-01, 8188 Inwood Avenue. Mario Sarno is the property owner, and this is a fence variance. The application was received by staff on December 11th, 2023. Again, it is a variance request to section 1121.021.I.4 of the Clayton zoning code, specifically requesting to be permitted to place an unfinished side of the fence out from the property's yard, specifically from the property located at 8188 Inwood Drive. The applicant is, again, Mr. Sarno, who is the property owner. Public notice was printed in a local newspaper on December 20th of 23, and letters went to all the surrounding property owners within 300 feet on December 13th. Property in question is parcel ID M60-25101-0001. The property in question is approximately .382 acres, and it is zone MSD, which is the Main Street zoning district. This is the property in question. It is highlighted in yellow right here. This is Inwood Drive. This is Hacker out to North Main Street. The old Laura's Loft property is right here, just kind of as a point of reference. This is the property a little bit closer. You can see along the east side of Inwood, the property is zone MSD. All the surrounding properties are zone MSD. The properties across the street are zone RSD, which is the single-family zoning district. The surrounding land use, all the properties along Inwood Drive are single-family. The properties to the rear of the property are mostly commercial with some single-family kind of catty corner northeast of the property in question. The crux of the application tonight is that the applicant would like to be permitted to have his fence with the finished side out. When we redid the zoning code a couple of years ago, we did change the language in the zoning code to require that the finished side of all new fences have to be facing out to the neighboring properties. Section 1121.02.I.4 of the Clayton zoning code does lay that out specifically. The zoning administrator does have the discretion to waive that particular requirement, but as you'll see in the next slide or two, there's a specific reason why we didn't. The applicant did install the 6-foot privacy fence sometime during the fall of 2023. We became aware of the issue at hand when there was a neighbor complaint called into our office about the unfinished side facing their particular property, specifically to the property to the south. Our code enforcement officer did go out, issued a violation to the property owner, asked him to flip the sides of the fence the appropriate way per the zoning code, and that has resulted in the application tonight. Essentially, when we spoke to the applicant, what we found out is that really, this is really more of a civil issue between the two property owners, and there's a chain link fence that runs between the two properties where the two fences abut. You'll see in the following slides, photographs kind of what we're up against in terms of where the fence locations are at. Due to the fence being located right up against the chain link, the applicant contends that he is unable to put the finished site out, facing away from his property, per what the code requirements are. Due to the fact that there was a neighbor complaint about it, staff did not feel that it was appropriate for us to waive the requirement that is spelled out in the zoning code. From a practical standpoint, staff always recommends to property owners that people install new fences 3 to 5 feet off the property lines for really this specific purpose. Any fence is allowed to be located on the property line. That is well within every property owner's right to put a fence on a property line. However, when you put a fence on a property line, you are no longer afforded the opportunity to go on your neighbor's property without their permission to maintain the fence or make repairs or what have you. That is the reason we recommend people put them off the property lines. Those are some of the factors that are associated with a specific case. The applicant can obviously kind of detail some of his reasons to the board specific and can answer any questions that you guys may have. These are some of the pictures. You can see the chain link fence that's located between the two properties and then the new privacy fence. The privacy fence that the applicant has installed, and I believe I'm saying this correctly, Mr. Sarno, it is actually, there's finished sections on both sides. It's a very nicely done fence. On the inside and outside part of the fence, it's double pane, so there's finished sides facing the inside and outside, except along the south side, which is along the chain link fence. Now, the property owner has put this vinyl material that is covering the unfinished section, but that is not normal fencing material that is accepted within the zoning code, so it's not something that staff can make an administrative decision on to allow. It is specific in the zoning code that it has to be the finished side facing out from the property. So even though this may be something that is considered, it's more of an opinion on whether this is appropriate fencing material. Per the code, it is not. Again, the unfinished side is facing out from the fence. You can kind of see on the picture on the right, you can kind of see through the material that it is the unfinished side. It is right up against the chain link fence. This is just a different angle. And again, this is the south side of the property in question. Again, this is the section of the code that addresses where and how fences can be installed. In addition, with that particular section that is specific for fencing, the zoning code 1141.07 it specifically details the procedures and locations and what have you that you can consider a variance request. This is one of those matters that can be considered for a variance request. So staff recommendation. We recommend that the board consider these 3 factors when making this decision. The request is a result of the property line dispute between the two property owners, and the board should weigh the factor that, in determining the practical difficulty of the request. The property owner installed the fence with the finished side out in compliance with the code along all the different sides of the fence, or all the different sides of the property, including the northern line, which is also, again, a chain link fence. I believe there's some circumstances around that, which the property owner can answer for you specifically, but the northern property line also is along a chain link fence, and it does have the finished side out. And the third thing is the fence could have been installed 3 to 5 feet from the property line, giving the property owner the ability to install the fence finished side out. But again, he can give you the reasons why he installed it where he did, which is making it impossible for him to install the finished side out, because to install a fence finished side out, you have to be able to be facing the fence to face the post. And he's not able to gain access to his property, to the neighboring property owner's property, which is prohibiting him from going the finished side out. That was very confusing, the way I just said that. I apologize. So if I need to answer any questions on any of those specifics, I'll be happy to.
That's why I don't play poker. Any questions from the board for staff? I guess I have one or two, I always seem to. How come this isn't an administrative appeal?
Well, we explained to him, so if it was administrative appeal, the appeal would be to determine if staff erred in citing him. The code is very clear on what is required. So he made the determination to file a variance. Staff made the recommendation to him that he would not win the administrative appeal because the code was very clear on how the fence needs to be installed.
Okay. However, by reviewing this case, I'm thinking of setting precedents now. So, this is going to be something that we're going to have to talk through a little bit
Absolutely.
and see what we can come up with. Do you know about the difference between the chain link fence in the back of the yard as opposed, you said access, you need to gain access to it to be able to put the finished side out, is this true?
So when you
Difference
install a
between the two.
fence, so when you install a privacy fence, a wood privacy fence, you have your post, and then you have the beams that are going across, that are going horizontal across between the two posts. In order to secure the panels, you have to be on the outside because you're installing the boards into the posts. You can't install, for the finished side out, you can't be behind the posts because the post would still be visible from the neighboring property owner. So in order to secure the post, the panels into the post, you have to be on the outside of the fence. And if the privacy fence is being located directly on the property line, you would have to be able to be on your neighboring properties, your neighbor's property. And if you're having a dispute with said neighbor and they don't give you authority to go on their property, you can't gain access.
Okay, that makes sense. And apparently, the access was granted for the other,
He will be able to answer that question.
okay. Did you take any survey map or anything like that? I mean, we got two fence lines both going down a property line. Do we know that property line is in actuality real at that point, or that line, I should say?
The applicant will be able to answer if there's any surveys done. Staff was not given any surveys. Typically, in these types of situations, from a practical standpoint, we do not get involved with property line disputes because of the technicality and the expertise that's required to be able to know exactly where the property lines are located at, knowing where the survey pins are, what have you. So, and since none of us are trained surveyors, in these matters, we do not get involved with property line disputes.
Okay, I get that, I understand that. I was just thinking that if there was a question as to where the real property line was, especially in a neighborhood that's a little bit older.
Sure.
The stakes may have moved, the pins may have been, taken up, and now all of a sudden, we've got people talking about a fence that may be five feet off a center, according to where the real is. That's the only reason I'm asking that question, is just to get a feel for the reality of where that property line may be, but the applicant may be able to shed more light on that too.
Sure.
I have a question. So if this variance tonight is not granted, the property owner would be required to take down the fence on the south side, flip it around, and put it back up?
He'll be required to install the boards facing out. If he has to move the posts to accomplish that, then yes, he'll be required to move those posts back. Or he can work something out with the neighbor so that he's able to gain access. Or I believe there was a conversation about moving the chain link fence. So I think that's something that he can speak with you guys about.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go by my script here. Okay. Sir, would you like to come up and talk to us for a little bit? Again, we'll need your name, we'll need your address, and anything that you can add or clarify based on what we've talked about so far would be most welcome.
Sure. Mario Sarno, 8188 Inwood Avenue. I'm the homeowner. filing for a variance because it's not physically possible to put fence boards on the outside of the fence I built in between a chain link fence and the one I've constructed. When I started the fence project, I was told I was not allowed on her property and she was going to keep her chain link fence. I couldn't remove it. When I did the first 2 sections of fence, the neighbor on the other side, I asked him about his chain link fence, and he didn't care either way. So I removed it for him and left his section in the front, and he's got a 2-sided fence on that section, well, his side and my side. The back section, which goes to Main, is double-sided, both sides, painted. I didn't have a problem on the back because it was 5 feet off power line, or off my property line back for a variance for DP&L. And when it came this year, I went to do a driveway project extension because I have a construction trailer and I wanted to be able to park it behind my house. So in getting the construction or the driveway done, I needed to finish the post on my fence before the driveway went in, or I would have never been able to put the post in after the driveway goes in. So she told me since I couldn't take her fence down, the only option I had was to build mine as close to the property line as possible. I did that and sided my side, and since I didn't have the room between framing and chain link, I bought the vinyl unapproved fencing material, which on their site it's listed for privacy fence. Did not know it wasn't approved to use that material, but I did because it wouldn't be a privacy fence to me had I not put anything on the outside, because you would truly be able to see through. So I'm just trying to move on until I got this request to flip the fence. You can't flip the fence. It's not fence panels that were bought at the Home Depot and put between 2 posts. I'm a carpenter by trade. So there's 4 rails in between each set of posts, which most fences are 2 to 3 rails. I go above and beyond. There's 4 rails in between. And it's board on board, nailed to a string line all the way across. There isn't any just take it down and flip it around. The only option is to remove the chain link and to put the boards on the outside. My argument with the chain link is, besides that it's 60 years old and rusted and fallen apart, it's got a honeysuckle, and we all know about honeysuckle, growing on the property line that's pushed the whole chain link 6 inches into my yard. Now, yes, I haven't had a survey done, but I've contacted a survey company to have one done. Because in one of the pictures, I don't know that Jack could pull up, if you look down the fence from back to front, it curves. When you showed my picture of the plot line of my property, it was a perfect rectangle. Perfect rectangle, going down in between the 2 properties. It wasn't a line that goes straight and then curves 4 or 5 inches over here into my yard and goes back to hers, which if you look down the fence that I built from front post to back post, you can see the curve, not on these pictures, but I have one in my phone that shows it even better, that shows when I built this last section, I put the first post in the back corner next to her fence. Wasn't questioning the property line, just I was building it as close as I could because backing in a trailer into that spot, I can't afford to build it 3 feet off my property line to put boards on that side. So when I put the back post in, I went and did the front post. Not arguing in between, but anybody that's built a fence, that's how you do it. Your end terminal post. And then you run a string from both posts, and you can see that's how you set your in-betweens. Well, when I did the string, in the middle of the section, that honeysuckle is pushed over into my yard 5-6 inches. I'm a carpenter by trade. So when I get it surveyed, I'll know exactly how far it is into my yard. But I can tell by a string, the string doesn't lie, that her fence is encroached into my yard. The honeysuckle, 20-some years of growing, inch by inch, year by year, has pushed against her fence so much, it's not even connected in the corners anymore, her chain link, which I have another picture of that back corner of her fence, where the poles aren't even in the socket anymore because it's been pushed to the limit, pushed away from her property into mine. Not only is it went this way into my property, her fence is leaning at an angle. So if I was to move my fence even farther outside to make it plumb and straight, my driveway project would be worthless. I would just have $20,000 worth of concrete for nothing. I've tried to deal with this neighbor as nice as possible. My driveway extension sat marked in my yard with string from December until Memorial Day. And nobody from zoning, her, the neighbor, said anything about why is a string out here next to your driveway. Somebody with common sense would say that that person's going to extend their driveway over. Well, when the concrete guys started to come and I started getting ready for it, the neighbor approached me on Memorial Day. How classy of that, to come over and yell and told me to stop my project and not proceed because I didn't have the right to do it. I was taking her yard space up. On Memorial Day, after I had just been to the cemetery for my dad and my brother's grave. So I told her, thanks for keeping it classy, neighbor, and tried to go on my day. So yes, the fence was a priority after that to be built, so that I didn't have to deal with a neighbor like that. Well, I go and I build the fence and I put the vinyl wrap on the outside and had my driveway put in. At the same time, before the driveway project, my power line runs through her backyard, making me liable for the power line to be trimmed by her trees trimmed off my power line. She agreed to let my company that I hired through the power company to do the tree work in July. 2 months had went by and they came, knocked on her door. She wanted proof of insurance. When they came and knocked on her door and gave her proof of insurance, she told them to go to HE double hockey sticks, is how I'll put it. But she didn't say it like I did. And told them to go to that and slam the door in their face. So I had to pay $250 for a tree company to come to my house to get yelled at. Because they didn't do any work, but I still had to pay them for coming to my house. So I knew it was going to be something else. She's went to do something else, and it's something else, and it's something else. Well, then it came to, she called the police, complaining about a flag that I had put up that didn't get put up outside my house until all this had happened. So yes, I did put it up, but there's no law against having a flag outside my house. So she's grasping at straws. What did she do? She complained about the fence that when it was built had nothing to say about it until she got turned down and pulled at too many straws and now wants to have fence boards on her side. When it was built, told that it couldn't be done without taking your chain link down because it's encroaching on my property. So now, yes, it will be a civil matter, regardless of what you guys decide, because I am going to have it properly zoned and a proper stake put in, 4 of them all the way down through the property line, because as my plot shows, it's a perfect rectangle, not a rectangle with one side curved out. Now, yes, if I have my property zoned and it's relined, I will take the whole fence down and move it 5 inches, 6 inches over. Because backing in a trailer, I don't know if any of you have done before, 6 inches is a lot. So I barely get it in now. It wouldn't have got in with the power line being trimmed after I had spent all the money when she told them that and denied them access to her yard. So I've tried to be the better neighbor here, and I've went above and beyond, and I've built, quote unquote, a beautiful fence from who Zach sent to my house. We had a meeting. Daryl, yes, sorry. But told I built a quality fence and a good product. And I am a great neighbor, and I've had no problems with anybody in the neighborhood. I've got a award from the city about how well my house has looked. I got a plaque in my front yard. I've been next to there for 15 years and never had a problem with her mother. Never had a problem with her mother. And she moved in not even a year ago, and it's been a nightmare to the point where I don't want to be in my home anymore. It's violating my space of the property that I pay for. She's not the property owner next door. She's not the one to say what I can do on my property. But yeah, the fence, if I am ordered to put boards on the outside, it can't be done with the chain link there. So if I'm ordered to, I will just remove the whole thing. And then I'll put my property up for sale because I don't want to be here anymore if I got to live with this. I've got a terminally ill mother I'm dealing with, and I've got a grandson that's going to be born next week with a 6% chance of making it to his first birthday. So, and this is the Happy New Year that I get, that I've got to come in after the holidays and I got to deal with a situation like this in my property that I am the taxpayer for. That's my name's on the deed. Not acting for somebody as power of attorney. I don't even know if she is power of attorney. I haven't been shown pictures of that. I'm just trying to go on and live my life. But I guarantee you, I will have that property surveyed. And I will provide Jack with the results of that survey. Because I bought a perfectly rectangle property, not like this. And being pushed and poked and pushed and poked, I can't take it anymore. I've had enough. I would like to move on and beyond with this.
I can certainly appreciate your frustration in this.
Thank you.
And you're absolutely right about honeysuckle. The only thing I can say is at least it's not a multiflora bush. You know what those things are,
Yes,
too.
I do. I used to be in the landscape business before I was carpenter, yes.
They grow even worse, and they got thorns. But you're right. And it's interesting because that honeysuckle can really cause some damage over time, too, because it'll get right into every nook and cranny.
It is literally growing through the chain link.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Well, it sounds like you do have some frustration there, but it also sounds like you got a good reason to, since you built that, since you extended your driveway, right, to be able to park
Yes, sir.
park your vehicles there.
There's quite a few commercial people in our neighborhood, and I know they're jealous and envious of it to have my contracting trailer with thousands of dollars in tools behind a 6-foot privacy fence in my backyard that I can see out my back door. Yes.
That's a good
I
thing
love it.
because it keeps it out of sight, out of mind, and
You would think the neighbor would love it so that they're not, when they're backing out of their driveway, having to look past that trailer to get out to the street and pull out into the street. Where if I didn't put the trailer back there and I hadn't put my driveway extension in, it would be an inconvenience for my neighbor next door.
I can certainly see some benefits here. And I appreciate your candor. I really do.
I'm sorry, I'm Italian by nature, or I'm Italian, but it's in my nature. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm an Irishman, but that doesn't,
I'm sorry.
that's
Yeah,
neither
it
here nor there.
Doesn't excuse anybody. Doesn't excuse us.
I can appreciate it. I really can, and I do appreciate your candor because, disputes like this, you're right. It's between neighbor and neighbor. You may be absolutely right, and of course, we can't offer any opinion one way or another, but pursuing, some sort of a civil process may be a good opportunity for you to continue through too. The work that you've done on the other fencing side is good. It's very good. And that's why I guess I was asking Jack about whether it's an administrative appeal or a variance. I see why you're looking for the variance, though.
Okay.
I can see that because, you're running into a stone wall, if you will. You're having problems with it. You got frustration with it. It looks fine on your side. All's good, and you get cited for, well, you didn't put the finished side on the outside. It's like, But you've got reasons for that. And I can appreciate that too. Having a new player thrown into that mix has got to be tough, and I can appreciate that too. Have you ever had an opportunity to talk to the owner perhaps her mom, from what I've gotten from your testimony?
Ill health. That's all I will say. I was told in Memorial Day that once her mother passed, she was selling the house. And that the new neighbor can decide whether they like their rusted chain link or not.
I think we,
Not only is the rusted chain link not appealing to look at, she's got the gutters from the neighbor next to her, the old gutters from the neighbor's house next to her in her backyard. So I guess she's starting a scrapyard too. And they've been there for over a year, since the neighbor next to her got her gutters put up. Now, I don't know if, she's in the gutter business all of a sudden, or it's unappealing to look at.
thinking about that, it may just go away in time then.
And the other thing about building a 6-foot fence, if your neighbor doesn't clean their leaves up, and there's only a 3-foot chain link, guess what? They're your leaves.
I know that, especially with the winds.
I still get their leaves, but not as bad.
At least they don't drift over, right?
They don't blow through the fence anymore.
There you go. Well, I appreciate that. And you're thinking about getting a good survey on there too?
Yes, I've contracted a surveying company, and we had discussed him coming out and giving me a survey. He was gonna put numbers together, but I don't know. He's ignoring me because it's a dispute between neighbors, because ironically, he lives in the back of our neighborhood. So I'm going to have to move on to the next survey company. But
Okay.
yes, I will spend whatever money it is to get my property surveyed.
Yeah,
Because
no,
eventually I would like a fence in my front yard. Not a 6-foot one, obviously, but I would like a divider fence on the property line in the front yard.
I was curious about that because I know in the property I live on, there's a swale area in the back. And my next door neighbor, before we moved in, decided he didn't like the look of it, so he moved a fence and he built it like 10 feet on his property, just so that he didn't have to look at it.
And when I built my driveway extension, I have the right, I believe, to pour my driveway extension up to the property line. I don't know how that's listed, but
You'd have to
I
check with
stayed
staff
4 to
on
6
that.
inches off the property line. Because it was
as you know-
argued that I don't have the right to do that,
The property line as you know it,
as I know it to be.
which is a good
Going
thing.
by where her corner of her fence is, so yes.
Roger that.
The
Okay.
concrete guy even asked me, you know you can pour over farther. No, I don't want to. I want to leave the option, if I put a fence in the front yard, that I can still dig a hole. And it still be my property that I'm digging on.
Okay, that's fair. Anything more you'd like to add?
Not really. I think, by what I've said already, you can get a taste of my frustration in this matter.
I certainly can, and again, I appreciate it. I really do. Any questions from the board for Mr. Sarno?
Yeah, after there was a complaint received by the city about that side of the fence, have you had any conversations with your neighbor then, since then, specifically saying, hey, I'll do this if you just let me on there for one afternoon?
There's no conversations,
So it's, all communication is,
yes. I was told to stay off her property for dragging my trash can, one wheel of my trash can in her yard, one wheel of my trash can on my driveway extension. When I was waiting for the trees to be trimmed, I couldn't put the trailer in the back. I had it on the side of the garage on concrete, my driveway extension. The only way to get my trash can from the back of my yard to the front to take it out to the curb, I had to go past my trailer, and literally one wheel of the trash can was on my concrete, and one wheel of the trash can was in her yard. For 14 feet, my trailer is. And she came around when I had the second one and said, basically, stay off our property, dude. When every other time in 15 years, it's been Mario. "You need to stay off our property, dude." And I looked kind of shocked, and I laughed. She said, "It's not funny." And I said, "Well, it kind of is because I'm stepping on my property. Yeah, it can. Maybe one wheel was in your yard for 14 feet, the length of my trailer, but my feet were on my property." Well, she slammed the door. Okay, so that night I went in and called the tree company that I've been waiting 2 months on already. And I said, "Will you please do me a favor and get this work done? My neighbor is being unbearable." I said, "I just got yelled at to stay off her property for one wheel of my trash can. Can you please do something?" Well, he called me at 6:30 the next morning after their meeting, which they must meet really early, and said, "We're going to come do your tree work today." And I said, "Beautiful. Thank you very much." They showed up, 7:30, 7:45, 4 trucks, 8 guys. And as I had said, knocked on the door, because the only thing she wanted was proof of insurance. Knocked on the door, she opened it, said what I had said earlier, slammed the door in their face. Trying to be the good neighbor and not drag my trash can in your yard no more to get it from front to back, but okay. So I called DP&L, well, whoever, A&S. Explained it to them, the whole thing. They weren't originally, step one, or their way at the beginning, they wouldn't raise my power line without her trees being trimmed off of it first. They wouldn't send a guy out to do that work until the tree work was done first. So that's why I had to schedule the tree guys. So when she told the tree guys to whatever, I called the power company again, and they sent a worker out to my house. And he was able to raise my power line, which now the tension on that wire between the post and my house is like a piano string. But he raised it enough that I could get my trailer into the spot that I spent the $20,000 to have done. So I thought, okay, let's just let it all go from here. Her tree has a 6-inch branch laying on my power line right now. So it's only a matter of time this winter when that limb ices up and snaps my power line, and then my house is destroyed. But I legally can't do anything, so that's another civil case that I plan on pursuing. First of all, to get my $250 back that I paid for a tree company to do no work, because she agreed and gave them permission when I had the contract. So for her to deny them to do the work and me have to pay the $250, I feel she is liable for that $250. So I do plan on filing civilly for that matter, but only after my survey is done so I can make, hopefully, one case. But no, I wish there was conversation between us. There is none.
Just a quick question, and
Yes, sir.
please, I don't take this as a challenging question.
That's
This- The frustrations you're going through is going to be just terrible, and I understand that. But I want to get back to the fence a little bit. When you put your fence in, were you aware of the zoning requirements to have the face out, the finished face out, at that time when you put the fence in? I'm just curious as to why you did that on all that property except on
As listed,
that
it
line.
says finished side out.
Finished
I
out.
was to the assumption that I used a material that did finish the outside.
Yeah.
I did not know it wasn't approved by the city of Clayton as not appropriate fencing material. On its actual website, on Home Depot, you look up that product, it's listed for privacy fence. I didn't know it was going to be an issue. I knew if I didn't cover the framing on the outside, it would have been a bigger issue to me. That's what I thought. So I thought since I was covering the framing and you weren't seeing the framing, that I was finishing the outside of the fence to the best of my ability, because there's not room for boards to go between my frame and the chain link. So I thought I was finishing it. I thought it was a matter of opinion on what kind of aesthetic. I thought it was aesthetically. I thought I did cover the frame, so that was a smooth side.
And please, believe me.
And I needed to put something on that side regardless, or like I had said, my privacy would be null without something else on that side.
And again, my
Her
curiosity.
3 dogs bark at me constantly.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many frustrations here.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we could probably sit and talk and,
Yeah, oh, yeah, we could go on, yeah.
well, that was my curiosity. And hindsight's always 20/20. We know that. We always
Yes.
think about that. But it's just curious as to if you knew that regulation was there, would it have been best to check before you had put the fence in?
Well, I had waited 6 months for concrete workers, and I know, yeah, okay, hindsight's 20/20. But when I actually went to the third company before I got one that could come and do it, my point was to put my poles in, and I knew I was gonna be on the property line. And it's really upsetting that it's not the property line. Someone not even construction. I mean, look at it. Look at the picture of the lot lines. It's 4 perfect sides that go straight. The other 2 sections of fence I built, straight as an arrow. 80 feet across the back, 120-some feet across the other side, straight as an arrow, from front post to back post. And did the work for the neighbor on the other side. Took the fence down for him, his chain link.
I guess my concern is that there's some more issues here than what we're asked to address, and is this overstepping our charter as to what we're supposed to be doing? And that doesn't help you, and I'm sorry, but, you know, that was my question, and I hope you understand that, you know. It sounds like you have some issues with your neighbor,
To
property
say the
lines
least.
and whatever, and that's just something
It's sad.
that's beyond our purview. I don't know that we make sense.
Do you have any sense of when you might have the information about the survey? I know you said the first company's not working out, you're gonna go to a second company. Because I could see a situation where we just give this a little bit of time and see if. I also see a possible solution where if somehow you're allowed to take down that chain link fence, you could bring your current existing fence up to code, no problem, right?
Exactly.
And that kind of seems like the simplest solution to this. But we need some time. One, to find out if you're allowed to take the chain link fence down because it is on your property line, or 2, to see if the people living next door change. And then the situation changes and you can take down the fence, the chain link fence.
That's the way I kind of left it, is I was hoping for a better neighbor to be moved in next door. I was trying to just be the better neighbor until it happened. Wasn't trying to push the matter, and I was gonna let the new neighbor decide. Do you
What-
want a civil matter between both of us, or can you, minds come together?
What time frame were you given to bring the fence up to code?
I was given 30 days from the date of the letter, I believe.
So originally, when the notice of violation went out, he was given 30 days. When he contacted staff and made us aware that he was going to go the route of the Board of Zoning Appeals, he was given until the Board of Zoning Appeals came to a conclusion on this particular case. If the BZA would want to, you know, give the applicant 30 days to have a survey done, and you want to table the case until he's able to bring the survey back to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and you have the discussion further with him at that time, that's something that we can do. And from a staff perspective, you know, we can, for lack of a better term, table the violation until, you know, until he's able to come back before the BZA.
Jack, question probably for you.
Sure.
If he does the survey and it shows that it's actually on the right property line except for the bulge, of course, what then happens? Or what happens if he does a survey and the fence is on his property, in his property or
So
over the
if the
property
chain
line.
link fence is actually directly on the property line, then that's a civil issue between himself and the neighbor, because technically both property owners own that property line. They have a legal right to that property line, so that's something that they're gonna have to resolve civilly between the two of them. If the chain link fence is determined through the survey that it's actually on his property, well, then he's able to remove the chain link fence as he wants to, then, then he can put the panels on the outside as he desires. From a staff perspective, I believe that we would be fine, giving him an appropriate time frame. Excuse me. Obviously, because we're in the winter months and, we're not expecting him to be out there when it's 20 degrees outside doing the work. I mean, we can obviously work with him. If it's determined that the chain link is on his property, then that's something, typically, with things that come up during the wintertime, we give until, like the beginning of May or something along those lines. And that's something that staff can work with the Board of Zoning Appeals and with the applicant on.
That would probably be the best solution right there, right?
If the fence is on her property, then, then the BZA is back here making this determination. That might be something, I think, from a staff perspective, it appears as if the BZA desires some additional information before you make a final decision. So, if that's something that you guys or want to do, I think it would probably be appropriate, but I would recommend, give the applicant, if 30 days is something that you feel is appropriate, or, he can work with staff, if.
60? I mean, because I'm just now going to call a zoning
And that's fine.
company, and it might be 30 days out for them.
And right, this time of year is difficult.
And that's
so.
something that the board and the applicant can have a discussion about. If that, if 60 days is something you feel appropriate with and you're comfortable with, you can table it for 60, until, the March, the March meeting. And then at that time, Mr. Sarno would be required to come back with the results of the survey. Those are all things that are in your purview as a board.
I think that option makes the most sense. That doesn't incur any additional fees for Mr. Sarno, does it? Okay.
I agree, I think that's just,
I was thinking of all the way to May or something like that,
I've
just to
got
make
3
sure.
grandkids now and 2 going to be born within the next 2 or 4 weeks. And Christmas was a little expensive, so if I could get a little extra time before I get that bill come February for the credit cards, or January, yeah.
Well, Mr. Sarno, if there's one thing that we have done over the years, it's try to work with applicants. And, we're not hard over, oh,
$250 I paid for the application, yeah, it hurt a little bit, but
yeah, well, none of it came into our
spent a lot
pockets, I
more.
can tell you that. No, I can appreciate that, I really can. I can also appreciate, the quandary that you're in, and the frustrations, it does happen to us all. Unfortunately, you're in the middle of a perfect storm, it almost sounds like. I have one more question for staff. Has, you said notifications has been sent out to everybody? Does that include this neighbor?
It does, and as a result of the notifications going out, staff has received no phone calls or dialogue from any of the neighbors that received the notification, or from anyone that saw the notification in the local newspaper.
And that includes the neighbor
Yes,
that we're talking about?
it does.
Thanks, Jack. Any more questions for Mr. Sarno? The board? No. Anything to add, sir?
I think we're at good terms right now.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yes, you too. Well, I guess we'll open it up to any public comments. You can stay, please. No more, do we have any public comments? We don't have any.
From a practical standpoint, you still need to make a motion to open it to the public portion, and then hearing none, then you can make the motion to close. And then if the board so desires to give him an extension, then there would need to be a motion with a specific time length that's included with giving him the opportunity to go find, or to have a survey done.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate that. That's kind of off script and not our normal. Do I hear a motion to open up the floor for public comments then?
I'll move to open for public comments.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
Okay. Any public comments? Nobody here. Hearing none. No input from staff. Do I hear a motion to close?
I move to close the floor for public comment.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion among the board then. We've heard quite a bit of testimony. We've heard some options that we can consider. Do I hear a motion?
Just a quick statement. I think since there's no danger here, there's nothing jeopardizing, there's nothing going on, is there a limit to the time? I mean, certainly don't want to give them a year, but, you know, I mean, like I said, there's nothing that causes any,
I think it would be appropriate to put a time limit on it. I mean, there is an official application before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I think it's inappropriate to do it in as timely manner as possible. Now, you determine what that timely
Yeah.
manner is, but I think extending it out for 12 months is. Oh, I got you, yeah. No,
But-
I think doing it in a reasonable timely fashion is appropriate. No, that, sure.
I think 4 months.
4 months sounds good to me. I was thinking spring.
Yeah,
so-
that gives a little time. And again, like I said, there's no danger, there's no harms, nothing.
I move that we table this case until April or May? What do we think?
I'm going to be gone in May.
Okay. I move that we table this case until the April meeting, requesting that Mr. Sarno try to get his survey done and come back at that time with that extra piece of information.
It's a motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
I'll say.
Any discussion? No? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes?
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
I think it's tabled then until our April meeting. Thank you, Mr. Sarno. We appreciate your time, appreciate your testimony.
One quick comment. Mr. Sarner, just from a practical standpoint, would the board find it appropriate if he can give staff a copy of the survey so that we can send it out to the board a week prior? So like if you could get us a copy of the survey like 2 weeks prior to the meeting, and then we can send it out to the BZA for staff comments.
True, and if you come up with some more additional information, that if you can funnel that through staff as well, I think we would appreciate that. That way we'd keep, get all the ducks in a row and make sure we're on the same page. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. No more new business. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes,
Ms. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Madewell?
Yes.
Ms. Caldwell?
Yes.
we're adjourned. Thank you.